In Japan, there are 7 people, including men and women, known for their extraordinary talents. They are remarkably advanced in their respective fields, despite being just high school students. For their talents and expertise, these individuals have been given the title of high school prodigies. The story begins with the introduction of all 7 highly intelligent people, starting with Ringo. She is far more intelligent than any scientist of this century. In fact, her IT skills are centuries ahead of their time, and she has even invented an AI avatar that discusses recent actionable scenarios with her. The second person is a girl named Ichiko. She is a fearless fighter and an excellent swordsman. She can handle a sword with precision, making her way through shooting points like a pro. The third individual is a girl named Kana, who is a talented surgeon. Among her remarkable achievements in the medical field, one is that she has discovered a method to increase the human lifespan. She performs surgeries on patients who have lost all hope of survival and successfully saves them, so she is known as the best doctor in the world, even though she is still in high school. The fourth on the list is a sharp boy named Masato Sanada. He handles 30% of the world's finances and is one of the most successful businessmen in the world. The fifth prodigy is a magician known for his telekinesis and magical abilities. Despite being in high school, he has a strong grip on magic, telekinesis, and levitation, and he can mesmerize his audience with skilled magic tricks, and his name is Prince Akatsuki. The sixth prodigy is a descendant of a prestigious tribe in Japan, and no one can tell a story better than she can. She is working toward becoming the world's best journalist, and her name is Shinobi Sarutobi. The seventh and final prodigy is a very successful politician. Even though he is in high school, he managed to win an election because people have faith in his ability to lead the world. His name is Tsukasa. This thrilling story begins when all 7 prodigies travel on the same plane, unaware of each other. However, the unfortunate plane crashes, and they do not realize that their lives are about to change drastically. Injured Tsukasa opens his eyes, lying on a bed in an unfamiliar room. He sees a girl standing at the other end of his bed, asking about his well-being and expressing gladness that he is alive. Tsukasa cannot comprehend where he is and gets up immediately to find out what happened. Suddenly, he remembers that the last voice he heard before losing consciousness was the alarm in the airplane blaring as the plane was about to crash. He then fell unconscious, and he recalls that he was not traveling alone and that there were 6 more people with him. The girl standing in front of him reassures him and explains that there were a total of 7 people, and she and her group have successfully rescued all 7. The others are resting on nearby beds, and she is trying to ensure they recover soon, but he is the first to regain consciousness. The girl is surprised that he is more worried about the others. At this point, Tsukasa realizes that he has not introduced himself. He shares that he is Tsukasa, a politician who holds the responsibility to serve and care for his people. He asks the girl who she is, and she tells him that her name is Lyrule. Suddenly, she realizes that she forgot to bring him the food she prepared, and we find out Lyrule has made a stew that is supposed to restore Tsukasa's energy. However, Tsukasa is unable to eat it, and a bite falls from his mouth. Consequently, Lyrule chews the food in her mouth and then feeds it to Tsukasa, kissing him in the process. The strange touch makes her blush, and Tsukasa agrees to take the food that way. Just as Lyrule is about to push the second bite into Tsukasa's mouth, a woman enters and asks who among the 7 has regained consciousness. The sudden interruption makes Lyrule act awkwardly, but the woman ignores it and welcomes Tsukasa. Tsukasa also thanks her and the villagers for helping him and his people in their time of need. The woman is surprised that a boy of such a young age can speak so maturely, while her own son, who is the same age, still acts like a brat. Tsukasa compliments the woman, saying that she doesn't look old enough to have a son his age, which flatters her. As she smiles, Tsukasa notices her fluffy tail and surprisingly asks if that's real. She shows it to him and explains that everyone in Freyjagard has a tail called a byuma. He has never heard of this area and shares that he is from Japan, but they have also never heard of a place like that. When he mentions that he is speaking in Japanese, he wonders how they can understand his language if he is not in Japan. The girls reply that they are speaking their native language, which is definitely not Japanese, and this gives Tsukasa chills, and he wishes to see the area where their plane crashed. The girls take him to the site where the plane parts are scattered everywhere. Tsukasa can't imagine surviving this crash, but what astonishes him even more is that the girls refer to the airplane as a big bird. Suddenly, a very large dragon flies over their heads, and the girls become excited to see it. Now, Tsukasa realizes that they have somehow crossed into another dimension due to the plane crash, and the people here are different, with tails and long pointed ears. A month later, the villagers celebrate the full recovery of their 7 guests with good food and drink. All of them have accepted that they are not in their world, but Prince Akatsuki is too terrified to act normally. The difference between them and the people of Freyjagard is that the locals have tails and pointed ears. Meanwhile, these humans possess different talents, such as magic, which is unknown to the residents of the other world. At the same time, Winona arrives with cooked potatoes, and everyone makes faces, as they dislike them since this is all they ever eat. However, Tsukasa introduces them to mayonnaise, which they have never tasted. He tells them to eat the potatoes with the sauce, which makes them taste much better, and everyone enjoys it a lot. Sitting around the fire, Winona shares a folklore that is famous among them. It is about the 7 people who appeared from another world, and we find out that they fought for the villagers and defeated an evil dragon to save the people of this world. All of a sudden, a young boy arrives, furious for not being invited to the feast, even though he is the village treasurer. He shouts at them, claiming that the poor villagers can't feed 7 useless people any longer, and then storms off. Winona feels ashamed that he is her son, and she mentions that he is very foul-mouthed. That night, Tsukasa calls everyone to a meeting to discuss their agenda. He wants them to focus on 3 things. First, to learn more about this world. Second, to find a way to return to their own world. And third, to help the villagers rebuild. Everyone agrees with him on all points. The next day, Ringo shares that she has managed to repair the phones of all 7 members, making it easier for them to stay connected wherever they are. She also examined the crash site and discovered that there is a small nuclear unit that is still operational, which they can use for power as long as they want. Additionally, she shares that her AI assistant assessed the area and found a large reservoir of bauxite, which they can use to make aluminum. This is the only way they can rebuild the plane and return to their world. Some noise suddenly gets their attention, and they see a few royal guards talking harshly to Winona. She tells them to leave, while one guard tries to be vile to her. Tsukasa stops him and declares that they are going to protect the villagers from now on. The guard takes this as an insult and orders his men to prepare. Tsukasa throws the guard to the ground barehanded and holds a sword to his face. He tells him to run back to where he came from, and he will spare his life. The guard runs away, taking it as an insult and promising to return with more power. Suddenly, Akatsuki appears before the Imperial Guard in the jungle. The guard is shocked to see him flying, as levitation magic is secret art in this world, and it's only known to Imperial mages. They are unaware that Akatsuki is just using sleight of hand, and Akatsuki separates the guard's head from his torso and tells him that he will do the same to them if they report what happened in the village to the king. The guard promises to remain silent if Akatsuki spares his life, so Akatsuki lets him go. The next day, Tsukasa holds a meeting with everyone and tells them that each person should take on a different responsibility and use their powers responsibly for the benefit of this world. We then see Masato and Elk at a nearby trading company. They offer such a high price for trading goods that it seems impossible for Masato to accept. He turns to leave, but just as he does, the owner of the trading company laughs maliciously, telling him that they can't move to another trading company if they do not trade with them. If they attempt to do so, they will be trading without a permit, which is not permissible, and he will report them to the authorities. Saying this, Jakoi laughs ironically. Masato does not stop, but Elk comes out of the building half-heartedly. He mentions that their only hope is to trade with the company at their offered rate, which will help the villagers get through the harsh winter. However, Masato argues that selling their goods for bare minimum prices will only lead to more misery. He mentions that they should never underestimate themselves, and Elk is intrigued by Masato's optimism, and he wonders if he wants to benefit the villagers with his skills. Masato insists that he is correct because they all owe their lives to the villagers who saved them. Meanwhile, someone is sneaking around them secretly while they talk. Masato asks Elk to put him in charge of the trip, promising to show how he can outmaneuver the ruling business companies in a week. On the other hand, Akatsuki is using his magic tricks to make the kids in the village laugh. Tsukasa and Lyrule pass by, and Lyrule feels grateful that all 7 of them have filled the village with laughter. They thank them, but Tsukasa assures her that the villagers deserve to benefit from their skills because they have earned it. All 7 of them are working in the village to improve the quality of life for the villagers. For instance, Ichigo chops wood in a matter of seconds to use as building material with her sword. Ringo is working hard to make aluminum, while Tsukasa is managing the demand and supply chain, ensuring they produce enough mayonnaise to meet the area's needs. Lyrule shares that their main concern is that they are running out of flour and salt for winter, which they need to stock up on. Tsukasa reassures her, saying that Masato is handling finances, so they don't need to worry. Just as Lyrule mentions that Elk is with him with his grumpy demeanor, Winona enters the room to clarify that they are in bad position because of the greed of Jakoi. However, Tsukasa is confident that Masato is on his way to founding his own company to generate revenue. He shares that Masato was known as a big capitalist in their world, so they can put their trust in him. At the same time, Masato examines the trading contract in his hand that he just acquired. He used Shinobu's skills to gather information about the mayor who issued the contract. He discovered that the mayor has secret accounts with unknown earnings, and when he shared this information with him, the mayor signed the trading contract and asked Masato to keep quiet. Elk can't believe his eyes seeing the contract, but it's true. Elk is still worried about what they will sell using the contract, as they don't have any goods, but Masato hits him on the head, telling him to be confident because they just hit the jackpot by getting the contract, and he knows how to navigate this situation. He promises that he will sleep on gold coins in a few days. Listening to this, a poor kid named Rue comes up to them and pleads to be made a part of their company. Masato agrees to take her into their group, as the little kid is just as eager to earn money as him. Later, they go to the local merchants, and Masato offers to sell their goods at their trading company for a much higher price margin than anyone else can offer. Since they are working hard, he proposes to take a 20% cut from the sale. Then he decreases the margin to 10%, stating that the villagers are already going through tough times. They agree, and that's how Masato arranges stock without spending a dime for their trading company. Later, Elk questions Masato's strategy, and he explains that they will not lose any money even if they don't sell anything, as he cut the profit in half since the merchants will provide the manpower to sell the goods. On their first day displaying stock at their trading company, Masato encourages passersby by telling them that they are selling at cheaper prices. By the end of the day, they earn a lot of money, and Masato shares this news with Shinobu over a call. He urgently wants to arrange equipment for Ringo with this money, and she tells him to give her a call when he is ready, and she will arrange the supplies for him. The next day, Masato sends food supplies to the villagers, which is more than they need. They are so happy, and Tsukasa expresses that Masato is surely doing an excellent job. Shinobu shares that he wants to crush the rival trading company within a week. On the other hand, the owner of the rival company, Jakoi, thinks that Masato will definitely fail, and when the farmers come crying, he will buy their goods at a 50% profit margin. But the opposite happens, as Masato's trading company's sales increase each day, and it's because they offer lower prices and better quality. One day, the mayonnaise stock runs out quickly when Klaus, the leader of the merchant group named Sea Serpent, arrives asking for it. Masato offers him free mayonnaise to taste, and then they sit together to discuss business. By the end of that week, Jakoi does not care about Masato's company. However, when things start getting out of hand, he plans to open a market in the plaza. On the other hand, Shinobu goes to Masato and Elk while Rue looks completely absorbed in her surroundings, gazing at the huge pile of coins. Shinobu shares that Jakoi is getting ready for war, and she just came to inform them of this news. But the smart Masato has already arranged a solution for the upcoming battle against Jakoi. He has gathered all the traders to discuss the situation. Tsukasa then goes to see how much progress Ringo has made so far, and he finds out that she has successfully converted bauxite to aluminum and shows him a shovel made of aluminum. He is excited to share the shovel with the villagers, as it will greatly help them in farming and other building chores. Ringo shares that she has received many useful items she requested from Masato, and suddenly, she feels a bit sick, but still feels obliged to work quickly to make the things they need. However, Tsukasa tells her to rest, as it is crucial to keep herself healthy and fit. Snow has started to fall in the area, and Tsukasa notices that her friends are not accustomed to this weather. On the other hand, Jakoi orders his employees to buy all the goods from traders, intending to crush Masato's company in one go. But after a while, his employee shares that no trader is agreeing to sell their goods to him, since all the traders are working with Masato's company. After hearing this bad news, Jakoi goes to meet the traveling traders himself. He offers to buy all their goods, but they are resolute that they will not work with him at any cost. He offers a higher profit margin, but they tell him that they will not be deceived by him again. At the same time, Masato arrives and reveals the reality of Jakoi's deceptive trading tactics, revealing that he cut transportation costs and the people who used to bring goods to market. As a result, the traders started bringing the goods directly to Maso. This way, they had to cover the transportation costs, and Jakoi earned more cash. Masato tells him that he lost trust and credibility in the process, which is crucial above all else. He informs Jakoi that they have made a contract with the merchants for 3 years, and in the contract it's written that they will purchase all trading goods even before their arrival at the port. The traders refuse to work with Jakoi, knowing that this cunning man will make them work with him again at a higher cost, but he will definitely deceive them again by lowering the rates. Jakoi sees his definitive defeat, and it is almost the end of his company. Elk thinks that the smart Masato did what he promised in a week, by ending Jakoi's company. However, Masato knows all the tactics and shares that he will not own the entire market by himself, as that is bad for market growth, so they can rethink their terms and start working together. After Jakoi leaves, Elk wants to know if Masato really decided to help Jakoi maintain his business, but Masato has another scheme in mind. He knows that their company will not be able to handle so many traveling merchants, so they will send a few to Jakoi, and the contract with the traders is nothing but a piece of paper. Elk is surprised that Masato lectures on trust building in business, but in fact, he never practices it, and Masato laughs at his naivety. At the same time, a few men come searching for Ru and claim that this little girl is their slave, and they will take her with them. Ru begins crying and pinches Masato's sleeve, as she doesn't want to leave him and become a slave to these cruel people again. She imagines her parents when Masato asks why she wants to be with him. She tells him that she wants to buy her parents back with the money she has earned, and she will give the rest to Masato, and she will serve him too. Masato suddenly throws a bag full of gold coins at the harsh man, telling him that he has now given him 100 times more than the price, and now Ru will live with him. Ru hugs Masato and thanks him for saving her, but he apologizes to Elk as he has lost all the money that belonged to their trading company for this purpose. Elk assures him that he did a good thing by doing this, and he states that he never knew that it would feel so good to earn money like this. The scene shifts when Shinobu calls to Tsukasa and tells him that she has roamed around this world and gathered information about the magic these people use. There are only a few people who can use magical spells, and she has not come across any information suggesting that anyone can use magic to cross worlds. She also heard a strange story about a religion called the Seven Light Faith, and she reveals that several years ago, people stopped practicing any religion because the state did not allow them to follow the gods, and instead insisted on obeying the empire. The guards roam the streets, ensuring that the people do not follow any religion, and at the same time, Tsukasa hears his friend calling him. He tells Shinobu that they have built some useful public facilities with the help of Ichigo and Ringo's AI avatar, and one of these is a public bath. Tsukasa takes a bath with his friends, but while working on building these facilities, his hands have gotten blisters. The kind Lyrule rubs horse oil balm on his hands to soothe them, and at that moment, Akatsuki comes to tell them that a monster named Chief of the Forest has attacked a few hunters. Tsukasa immediately takes his friends, sits in the carriage, and rushes to kill the monster, and meanwhile, the mighty monster awaits them. Tsukasa and Ichigo arrive at the site of the attack, and together they push and throw the monster down a cliff. Now, they have to worry about the injured mayor. All of a sudden, the Chief of the Forest emerges from underneath the rocks and tries to crush Ichigo, but she efficiently deflects his attacks. After several attempts, she manages to overpower the monster and ultimately kills it. Meanwhile, Kane performs surgery on the mayor, and even though he has stopped breathing, her medical skills are renowned in the world, so she stitches the ruptured organs and resuscitates the heart until the mayor starts breathing again. Afterwards, she shares that he will open his eyes in 3 days, and they thank her for being so helpful. We find out that the mayor is Winona's father, and as they return to the village, they see an army of knights along with a silver knight named Inzagi. He accuses Masato of treason and of making money through illegal sources, and he orders his guards to arrest all the accused, including Tsukasa. He also orders the seizure of Lyrule, and he refuses to hear their explanation, lighting a fire to burn all the culprits. After throwing Tsukasa and his friends into the fire, the guards leave. But just as they do, the magician Akatsuki uses his magic to free himself, Ru, and Masato from the flames. Elk also comes out safely, and he thanks Akatsuki for saving his life. Masato shares that the guards were sent by Marquis Findolf, and they are called the Guardian Knights, and Tsukasa worriedly thinks that they need to find Lyrule as she is missing. The scene then cuts to Lyrule coming out of the bath in the mansion of Marquis Findolf, and she looks sadly at herself in the mirror. Meanwhile, Elk is furious and wants to get her back immediately. He angrily orders all the villagers to bring their cart, as they will quickly leave to rescue her. But Tsukasa, a wise politician, knows the power of negotiation. He stops Elk and explains how his unplanned attack on the Marquis will start a war. They can rescue Lyrule for now, but then the Lord will attack their village and destroy it, and he asks them to wait until he goes to negotiate. He wants to talk to the Lord to free the villagers from the charges of treason, and in exchange, he can keep Lyrule as he is interested in her. Elk becomes very angry upon hearing this, but Tsukasa is equally firm about their abrupt actions. Starting a war with the Lord just to get a girl back will push them centuries back in their civilization. He tries to reason with them that they can avoid destruction and piles of corpses by making a wise decision, and he is sure that Lyrule would also want to preserve the peace. Winona stops Elk and steps forward to tell Tsukasa that they are known as humans because they support and save each other no matter what. Supporting and protecting each other is more important to them in order to maintain their humanity, and she reminds Tsukasa that Lyrule once rubbed oil on his palms to soothe his blisters, and she wonders how can he so easily forget her. She pleads with them to help in this time of need, and Masato tells Tsukasa to present the broader picture of the effects of war after they rescue Lyrule. He promises that, as a leader in a democratic setup, he will lead and help them in wartime, but afterwards, everything will change. On the other hand, Lyrule looks beautiful, but she is immensely sad, like a bird in a cage. Lord Marquis arrives in her room, looking like a ugly old man. At the same time, the Silver Guardian takes his leave. Before leaving, the Lord shares that he is happy that his servant has brought a beautiful girl from the village for him, and he promises to give him anything he wants as a reward. As he leaves the room, Lord Marquis touches Lyrule's face to realize that she is real and pretty. Lyrule remembers what the Silver Knight said to her in the carriage. He told her to please their lord, and in exchange, he promised that he would never go to their village again. The Marquis comes closer, and Lyrule expresses to the Lord that she will be happy to please him. This makes the Lord overjoyed, and he is about to kiss Lyrule. But just as he gets his lips closer to hers, a high-level electric shock throws the Lord away, and Lyrule falls in the opposite direction. The Lord becomes furious, realizing that the clever villagers have used magic, and now he is injured. He shouts at the Silver Knight to put chains around Lyrule so he can punish her for her discourtesy. At the same time, a number of villagers run toward the Lord's castle. We notice that they have brought a mobile weapon with them, and Ringo programs the weapon to attack as Tsukasa gives her the signal, and we find out that the weapon is a missile launcher. The missile strikes the castle, and the blast terrifies the cruel Lord. Taking advantage of the situation, the villagers enter the castle through the area damaged by the missile. Thus, the Guardian Knights are unable to stop the villagers outside the castle. There are still a number of villagers standing outside the building, so the Silver Knight tells his soldiers to hold their position and attack them with arrows. To his surprise, when they shoot the arrows, the villagers cover themselves with shiny silver metal. Masato is thrilled with this new invention, as the shields are not just made of ordinary material, they are composed of a mix of aluminum, bauxite, magnesium, and various other materials, making them robust and highly advanced. Suddenly, the villagers attack the soldiers from behind and kill many at once. Meanwhile, Ichigo's sharp blade and phenomenal skills come in handy as she takes down several soldiers, and Winona also joins her as a skilled fighter. Here comes in our spy, Shinobu, who has already gathered so much information that she knows exactly where Lyrule is right now, and everyone runs quickly toward her room. They encounter a new enemy who attacks them first, but Shinobu dodges his attacks. The enemy introduces himself as an Imperial Mage, and on the other hand, the Silver Knight senses that his soldiers are becoming disheartened because the villagers are rapidly killing them. He gathers all of them and plans to charge a strong attack against the villagers, and at the same time, Akatsuki catches his attention. He is flying in the air, making it easy to attack from that position. Initially, Akatsuki feels nervous seeing the bloodshed, but he encourages himself and throws several colored balls down at the soldiers. This unexpected attack causes the soldiers to retreat in fear of the unknown smoke. Now, the Silver Knight is furious that their mage has not come out yet to help, and the Imperial Mage charges at Shinobu using his magic wand, but quick as lightning, Shinobu guesses the direction and moves aside swiftly. With speed, she reaches right behind the Imperial Mage and attacks him with a taser, making him fall down unconscious. All of a sudden, the Silver Knight appears with his soldiers, and Shinobu tells Tsukasa to go and rescue Lyrule while she handles them. Tsukasa quickly rushes toward the Lord's room, where he finds Lyrule tied with ropes. Suddenly, the Lord fires a bullet, and Tsukasa falls to the floor. But surprisingly, as the Lord is about to assault poor Lyrule, Tsukasa gets up. We find out that he was wearing a protective suit underneath and was perfectly safe. Now he takes out his gun, which surprises the Lord, as no one owns such a weapon in this world. Tsukasa points it toward the Lord, who pleads that he will free the girl and give them money too if they spare his life. But Tsukasa replies that this is not an option now, as they have already started a war, and Freyjagard's government will definitely come after them. They want to build a country where everyone is equal and anyone can become a leader, which is not possible if people like the Lord are alive. He reveals that they are here to change the world as it is now, and with this, he kills the Lord. Afterwards, he unties Lyrule, but she opens her eyes and speaks in a different tone. She asks them to save their world from an evil that is slowly engulfing it, and she shuts her eyes, calling them the 7 heroes. When Lyrule opens her eyes again, that tone is gone. She is very thankful to him for saving her and feels gratitude when Tsukasa tells her that the whole village is waiting outside, as they charged a collaborative attack on the castle. Lyrule knows that they will face many hardships from now on as they have to deal with the consequences of the attack, but she is happy that they saved her. They wave at the villagers and their friends from the terrace, and Tsukasa is now planning to establish an independent country that the whole world will have to accept, and the first step in this mission is to reach the gods. The scene cuts to Dormund, a new city, and it looks better than their village of the demi-humans. A large truck stops inside the city, and all the people gather around the trailer, surprised at what it may be. They have never seen such a moving vehicle, and suddenly 2 girls get out of it and greet the people. They then introduce Akatsuki, telling them that he is a god, and Akatsuki begins showing tricks that are impressive to the common man. He makes a building disappear and then reappear using his magic wand. Then he gives the public a pile of mayonnaise. They enjoy its taste and shout in his favor. On the other hand, even though Akatsuki performs the magic tricks himself, Tsukasa is working hard to produce mayonnaise. While making mayonnaise with Winona, Lyrule shares that she is embarrassed that she never thanked Tsukasa for saving her. Meanwhile, Akatsuki continues to show the people his magic tricks. This is so new to them that it makes them smile. Masato laughs from the back of their vehicle, seeing that Akatsuki is perfectly behaving like a god, and that people are accepting it. He argues that they could have built the nation and united it even without a god, but Tsukasa explains that it's important for him to smoothly transfer power to the people. He plans to name the religion 7 Light Faith, which was the religion the people here followed centuries ago. He hopes to find those who practiced this religion in that way. On the other hand, Shinobu uses a horse to ride to Bushwald along with Elk, as she needs to quickly gather some much-needed information. It's heavily snowing, but the harsh weather cannot stop her. Meanwhile, Akatsuki's female guards invite everyone in the city, sharing that God Akatsuki has brought another present for them. Once again, it is a huge stock of mayonnaise, which the people love. They eat it and shout to show their allegiance to the 7 Light Faith. On the other hand, the mayor of Dormund City has been listening to the news of a new religion and watching everything from his home. He is so worried that the royals might not take keenly to this news that he is considering escaping the city. He tells his maid to pack his luggage, but the maid speaks in a different tone. He turns around to find that it's Tsukasa, and he is here to stop him from fleeing the city. He reveals that he wants a healthy collaboration with him because he knows more about the town, and he can do what no one else can, and they offer to pay him just for revealing that he also follows the 7 Light Faith. The Lord accepts the offer, and the very next day, he appears in front of the public and gives a speech. He shares that he, Mayor Vin, has started following the 7 Light Faith. The Imperial Knight watches the mayor ironically, and then all 7 friends gather in one place to see a photo of Tsukasa's disguise as a maid. He looks perfect as a maid, and they realize that this must be what helped him get into the mansion. After all the tiring tricks, Akatsuki is now so wiped out that he wants to get some rest. Tsukasa also realizes that they have not been to the village for a long time, and Kane requests them to give her some medical supplies, as she wants to make antibiotics. Tsukasa promises that he will arrange funds through Masato, and he tells Akatsuki to take a break, and during that time, Ishigo will protect him. The next step in the plan is to build another power station, and Tsukasa requests Ringo to start working on it. She suggests creating a thermal power station, as it would be the easier option. Tsukasa agrees, as he has no issue with it. Lastly, he shares that he wants to combine the soldiers of Dormund and Findolf State as followers of the Seven Light Faith, and he knows a person who can be helpful in this regard. The next day, he goes to meet the Imperial Knight at the bar to request that he become the leader. However, it seems the knight is ready to leave for somewhere else. Tsukasa introduces himself and mentions that he already knows the Imperial Knight, and he praises the knight's courage and expresses his need for him to command the knight's order that they are in the process of creating. The knight excuses himself, saying that he has already left his post and he anticipates an invasion from the Empire very soon, since Tsukasa has done something to upset them. He rejects the gold coins Tsukasa offers in return for his services, explaining that what they preach in democracy is that anyone can choose any job for themselves. Thus, he is leaving because he rejects the position. On his return, Tsukasa shares with Masato that he believes the Imperial Knight Bernard is the perfect man for the job, but he has rejected the offer. Nonetheless, he plans to meet him once again. The very next day, as Knight Bernard sits in front of his house cutting logs, Tsukasa comes to meet him. Bernard looks annoyed, having already refused to become a knight, but Tsukasa insists that he needs someone like him for the job. He believes the people need him to be more than just a knight, as he can become the perfect leader for all the soldiers. Suddenly, a little girl comes and hugs Bernard. She seems to love her father a lot, and it looks like Bernard lives for her hugs. He shares that she is all he has, as he lost his wife in an epidemic. He chose to be a knight so he could live closer to his daughter, but he cannot accept a life that would require him to be far from her. Tsukasa tells him that he needs a man who prioritizes his family above all else, as such a man would do anything to protect what's truly valuable. It is not a sign of fragility, instead, it is his strength. Hearing this, Bernard feels encouraged and kneels down to Tsukasa. He announces that he will be the knight serving them from now on, as he too wants to live in a nation where everyone is companions rather than rulers over each other with equal rights, which is only possible in a democracy. On the other hand, after losing the battle at the Lord's mansion, the chief knight is brought to Duke Gustav. The Duke does not accept the excuse that the Seven Light Faith won the battle and separates the knight's head from his torso with his sword. Meanwhile, Shinobu, disguised as a vile girl, sits with soldiers in a cheap pub to gather information on the Empire's possible moves. One soldier shares that Duke Gustav earned his title after fighting fearlessly on the front line and winning battles. He is very loyal to the Empire, and they have a large army. They are just waiting for winter to end, and then Duke Gustav will attack the rebels. Shinobu returns to the hotel room, where Elk is already waiting for her. He did not collect any useful information from the city, but Shinobu shares that there is a powerful Duke Gustav that everyone is talking about, and she plans to meet him. Meanwhile, Duke Gustav kills the Silver Knight in his palace. We then see Tsukasa having a meeting with the nobles of the area, and he allocates their duties. Afterwards, one of them asks if he ever takes a rest, as it is a famous rumor that the Angel of the Seven Light Faith keep working tirelessly. Tsukasa shares that he has the great responsibility of allocating duties to the nobles who have just turned into government officials, and this is why he can't go to rest. However, he does take a nap when he feels like it. On the other hand, the village construction work is quickly nearing completion. The chief of the village regains his consciousness after receiving good treatment from Kane. She constantly looked after him, and now he is feeling very powerful. He wants to be perfectly fine to go to war himself, as he has missed much in recent days. Winona shares that he does not know one more thing, but before she can say anything, Kane interrupts and suggests that the mayor needs to take proper rest, as he is not yet healthy enough to get around. At the same time, Rue comes panting into the room. She looks awfully tired and hungry, and falls down on the threshold of the room. Winona gives her food and a bucket full of milk, and Rue shares that she is memorizing the tables that her teacher, Masato, has given her. These are so difficult, and even after trying many times, she has not gotten the hang of it. So, Winona and the mayor try to cheer her up, telling her that she can skip memorizing the tables, as they are doing great even without it. Rue looks at them for a while and thinks they are wrong, and she will do what her master says. Kane relaxes her a bit and shares that the secret to success is constant hard work, so she must not give up. On the other hand, the new thermal power plant project is just finished, and Ringo shares that they now have enough coal to run it. The AI avatar appears, saying that they are successfully operating the trial run tomorrow, hence this task is complete, which means they can start their next project. Masato surprisingly wonders what the next project is. As Ringo leaves, Tsukasa shares that he has given her the project to make guns for the state, as they need to strengthen the defense system of this area. He wants to equip and teach the people here to use their own weapons, as it's their fight, and they have to fight for themselves, or they will never value their freedom. On the other hand, he has asked Ringo to work on the aerial defense system. This is important, as the world is full of flying dragons and other such species, and they need to make missiles to strengthen their aerial defense mechanism. Meanwhile, Elk and Shinobu are traveling to meet the Duke. She calls to Tsukasa to inform him that the enemy has a weapon in the form of heavenly flames, which create seas of fire that burn enemy nations to a crisp. At the same time, Tsukasa and Masato see Lyrule coming towards them, and she wants to know if Tsukasa is free, as she wants to have lunch with him. He is the one who saved her from the mayor, and she feels obliged to properly thank him, but Tsukasa excuses himself, telling her that he is quite busy right now, so they will have lunch some other time. As he walks away, Lyrule asks Masato why Tsukasa is behaving strangely with her, as if he is avoiding her. Masato tries to calm her down, but then he tells the truth. When the whole village was ready to attack the mayor's city to rescue her, it was only Tsukasa who did not want to bring her back. He prioritized saving the majority over Lyrule's safety, and this is how he is. He always prefers to choose others, even if he has to sacrifice the one he loves. Later, Tsukasa receives the report on urban development, and he praises the man for a work well done. Tsukasa knows that he is tired, so he gives him some time off, and the man leaves afterwards. After he leaves, Tsukasa realizes that he is overworked and feels exhausted. At that moment, someone knocks at the door, and it's Lyrule. She wants to come in to talk to him, but Tsukasa tells her that he is busy and suggests she come back later. He mentions that tomorrow isn't a good day either, and this angers Lyrule, and she barges through the door. She wants to know why he is avoiding her when he saved her from the clutches of a cruel man, and Tsukasa finally reveals that he never wanted to go and save her. She tells him that she already knows this and that he did it for the villagers, which does not make him any less good, as he is too kind and always thinks about the betterment of the villagers. Tsukasa then stuns her by stating that he is not a good man, as he killed his own father, and Lyrule is shocked to hear this. In a flashback, Tsukasa's father is shown as a renowned politician. Tsukasa explains that he was a great politician and everything was going fine until one day he discovered that his own father was involved in large-scale corruption. This broke his heart, as he could never let anyone snatch away the public's hard-earned money. Instead of remaining silent, he decided to take action and worked in collaboration with Shinobu and Masato. They all gathered evidence against his father, which ultimately led to an investigation, and in the end, his father was jailed and later sentenced to death when the corruption charges were proven true. Soon, his mother found out that it was their own son who had brought about his father's ill-fated demise. She began to hate him, as she loved his father more than anyone in the world. Lyrule listens to the story, and it brings tears to her eyes. She feels sorry for Tsukasa, realizing that he has gone through many hardships in his short life. She now understands that he is afraid of commitment and of being true to his emotions, but she is resolute to not abandon him. She gets closer to Tsukasa and tells him that she never felt he was guilty for not wanting to bring her back, and she would not let him ruin her feelings like that. She admits that she can't hate him, and Tsukasa finally gives in to her feelings. He assigns her his very first task. He wants to sleep for a while with his head on her lap. This way, he believes he can have the peaceful sleep he desperately needs. Lyrule assures him that she can sit with him the whole night, but he just wants to rest for an hour. He feels thankful to Lyrule for feeling his pain and crying for him, and he sleeps peacefully. Just as he falls asleep, Ringo watches the two of them from the slightly open door, and getting jealous of the scene, she returns without handing over the completed project. She goes back to her lab, and the AI avatar begins questioning her about what Tsukasa said. It wonders how Ringo could return so quickly, and annoyed, Ringo cannot answer any of the questions, and she puts virtual tape over the avatar. On the other hand, Ru is in the public bath, feeling frustrated that she can't memorize the multiplication tables. She almost screams out of anxiety when Ichigo and Kei enter the bath. Akatsuki, already taking a bath, dislikes that both girls are using the bath at the same time as him. The girls annoy him by saying that he is the god of the Seven Light Faith and needs protection against enemies. So, they ask him to consider their presence as a form of guard. He doesn't agree and decides to leave when he suddenly notices that Ru looks confused while sitting in the bath. She shares that she has difficulty memorizing the tables, and Akatsuki encourages her by telling her his own experience. As a kid learning magic, he hated having to repeat the same spell many times, and the same thing happened with Ichigo as she practiced the same sword movements several times. Kei, on the other hand, read many of medicine's toughest books. Ru wants to know how they all overcame their challenges and managed to excel in their fields, and Akatsuki shares that he knew magic was the only thing for him, so he kept improving each day. Ishigo was encouraged because her skills with the sword gave her power over her enemies, and they urge Ru to think of something she wants to achieve that matters to her. She imagines wanting to bring her parents back from heaven and realizes she also needs to earn a lot of money. Akatsuki and the girls then help Ru memorize and practice the tables, and afterwards, Ru passes the multiplication test. However, she has something else on her mind that's bothering her, and the root of the trouble is that Masato has told her that she has a division test next time, so she needs to prepare this next. We then see Elk and Shinobu stopping at an inn in the village of Kokonono, and they appreciate how neat all the houses and hotels are. On top of that, the people are very courteous compared to other cities, making their stay enjoyable. The inn owner and other guests sit around a nearby table, encouraging them to eat and drink more with smiling faces. The owner thanks them for appreciating the place and shares that it's all due to the collective efforts of the Lord and the mayor that they are enjoying peace and happiness. Shinobu drinks too much wine and is barely in her senses. That night, the owner of the inn and her daughter, Melinda, leave both of them in their room. Shinobu and Elk are both drunk and can barely stand on their feet. The owner quickly exits their room, but her daughter stays for a minute after her mother leaves and whispers to them to leave the village as soon as they can. Elk, not so drunk, is surprised to hear this. At the same time, the mother calls for her daughter to come out of the room quickly with a menacing look. It seems she doesn't want her daughter to talk too much to the new guests, and we find out that there are no other guests staying in the inn that night. Elk takes out the 7 Light Faith card from his pocket and shares that if the villagers are so happy and prosperous, then chances are they will not listen to their preaching. But as soon as they leave the room, Shinobu gets up from her bed and kisses Elk, surprising him and making him feel sober instantly. Surprisingly, Shinobu doesn't look drunk now either. She tells him what she noticed at the dinner table. All the guests were only pretending to eat with them while barely touching their food. In fact, they were starving, which was evident from their yellow, dehydrated skin and eyes. She knows that something is wrong, and to find out, they quickly leave the room. They search the basement of the inn and instantly discover the secret, as it's filled with the skeletons of the travelers who came here and stayed in this place. Shinobu guesses that the villagers loot the travelers and eat their flesh to survive, and Elk feels disgusted at the thought that they have eaten human flesh. At the same time, a guard shouts outside in the street, calling everyone to come out of their residences. All the villagers line up while Elk and Shinobu watch them from behind the window. The villagers wear smiles on their faces and thank the guard for making their village a better place to live. They make sure they appear tidy and smiling before sending them back to their homes. But suddenly, the guard Melinda saying that this little girl has dirt on her sleeves, so she will be punished. Despite her mother's tears and pleading, the guards begin lashing Melinda on the back. Elk, watching from a distance, urges Shinobu to do something to save the little girl, as she is the one who tried to warn them. Shinobu knows she can't fight the armored guards, but with a clever idea, she shows herself to the guards and reveals her unique weapons. She warns that using these weapons, she can kill half the guards in one go, but if they spare the girl, they will be safe, and she will go with them. The guards leave Melinda and take Shinobu with them instead. We then find out that being captured was all part of her plan, and though she wants to meet the lord responsible for all this. The guards then take Shinobu back with them and tie her hands in the prison cell. Later, the guard Jean visits her, sending the guards standing outside the jail away. On the other hand, Melinda's mother puts balm on her wounds, while Elk gets angry with her, as he knows what they are doing to the travelers here. The mother shares that it was not always this way and sincerely apologizes to him, explaining that all she did was necessary for her survival. She elaborates that it began when Lord Gustav issued a beautification decree which stated that the land be clean at all times. The land, which was once a farming area full of wheat, became clean and drier in pursuit of this decree. Now, they can't get muddy and work in the fields in fear of getting dirty, and this is the reason they are starving now, so they sometimes have to resort to eating human flesh to survive. She cries over her misery as she explains her situation. On the other hand, Guard Jean frees Shinobu, and she reveals herself to be an Imperial Silver Knight in service of Count Blumhardt, and a member of the Azure Brigade. She shares that she and her brigade are worried about the future of this region, and are ready to shake hands with them if they want to fight against Lord Gustav. At the same time, Lord Gustav receives the golden statue of the Emperor and becomes so happy to see it, as it represents the glory of their reign. He expresses his wish to his minister to make more statues like it, wanting to fix them in various corners of the land. But the minister stammers, telling the reality that the poor people of the land are already suffering and they can't spare more money for this. Lord Gustav becomes so angry because, in his opinion, the only way the peasants can show their loyalty is by giving money to fulfill his wishes. When he asks about the Seven Heroes Rebellion in the Findolf region, the minister shares that they will crush it after winter. Lord Gustav gets so angry that he smashes his head against the stone several times, causing it to bleed. He decides to use Laj Solil, the spear with the power of heaven's flames, to attack Findolf. He goes to the secret room, grabs the heaven fire spear, and goes onto the rooftop. Meanwhile, Lyrule hears a voice telling her that the seven heroes need her help. At the same time, the emergency alarms blares on the mobile of the seven heroes. Ringo calls Tsukasa, informing him that a flying object is coming to attack. He asks her to inspect its nature, and she tells him that it was fired from Gustav's region. Since Tsukasa has been investigating heaven's flames, he shares that these flames can burn everyone where they fall. Using a number of missiles, he instructs Ringo to redirect its trajectory towards the ocean. Initially, Ringo's missiles cannot invade the surrounding area of the Laj Soleil, and we find out that the spear is dodging the missiles fired at it. The spear then lands in the residential district of the town, and Lord Gustav speaks using a flame avatar that he will destroy all of them. On the other hand, Tsukasa hears his nobles and assistants expressing their nervousness and fear about the heaven fire reaching them. They immediately want to escape. Tsukasa watches from the window as the fire begins to spread in the residential areas. People are running everywhere to save their lives and shouting for help. At this time of need, Akatsuki appears flying in the sky and assures everyone that he is the god of the Seven Light Faith, and he will save the city, revealing that the insolent Gustav has thrown the heaven fire to destroy it. Tsukasa comes to be his assistants and acts as they have been taught to do in such situations. They are all notified about what to do already. Thus, they are instructed to save the city by taking their positions and performing their allotted tasks. They must work on evacuating the people, setting up camps for the homeless, and transferring important documents. The nobles start working while Tsukasa receives a call from Ringo. He asks another favor from her, while Knight Bernard shows up before the nobles of the city to save them and reveals that he is a servant of the Seven Light Faith and will protect the city with them. On the other hand, the city is rapidly falling, but Tsukasa's strategy to widen the roads is proving useful now. The fire is not spreading with such speed, and in fact, it has stopped. At the same time, Gustav speaks using his avatar, saying that they can't stop this fire with this trick, and throws the fire spirits trapped in it toward the people. They wrap them in their trenches and burn them. The otherworlders don't know what to do to stop it, but suddenly they see Lyrule running toward them. She shares that she somehow has come to know that they can destroy the fire spear if they destroy its core, and then the fire magic will end with it. Destroying the fire magic is too hazardous, and they know that many missiles have failed to do so. Lyrule shivers with fear and pleads for them to believe her, and Tsukasa assures her that he knows she is telling the truth. Now they think that to destroy it, They may be able to use the AI avatar to guide a homing missile, but the intelligent AI avatar refuses to do so, as it might burn its circuits. Suddenly, Ichigo speaks up, saying that she will guide the missile with her bare hands, and she is confident that she will succeed. She is ready to take on the task, as Ringo will monitor the last missile, and she will use her lightning speed to destroy the core. Ringo launches the missile, and then Ichigo runs with it. As she reaches the origin of the heaven fire, she deflects its direction upwards, and after reaching a certain height, she redirects it downwards and begins searching for the core in the fire. She roams around the city with the missile, searching for the core everywhere, and at last, she discovers where it is hiding and attacks it. Ichigo then attacks the missile at the center of the core, and it is destroyed in one blow. With that, all the heaven fire ends, and they can hear the wrathful voices of the angry Gustav. They appreciate Ichigo's courage, but Gustav is burning with rage that some ordinary bugs destroyed his most potent weapon. On the other hand, Lyrule shares with Tsukasa that in the red balls of fire, she can hear the voices of the fire spirits. They are thanking them for freeing them from this magic, and they never wanted to do what Gustav made them do, and were pleading for help. Suddenly, she feels sad, and Tsukasa knows that she feels responsible for the destruction, but he assures her that it was meant to happen at some point when fighting against tyranny. They certainly lost many lives, and it injured many people, but it will bring good change in the future. Lyrule reveals that before all this happened, she heard voices in her head telling her that she had to help the 7 heroes, and now she suddenly has the capability to hear the fire spirits too, so she thinks that it might be a good idea for her to learn to use magic, and she might also be able to help Tsukasa and the others get back to their world this way. On the other hand, Akatsuki appears before the public and receives appreciation for saving them all from the heavenly fire. At the same time, Shinobu calls Tsukasa and is embarrassed that even though she is working with Jin and her group, she never got any information about what Gustav is planning. Tsukasa tells her that they can't trust the Azure Brigade yet, so she should keep working with them to find out if they are loyal or not. Afterwards, Masato arrives, and Tsukasa thanks him for arranging everything in their time of need. He shares with Masato what Lyrule told him about the secret voices, and Kane helps the injured while Masato is sure that the Empire will attack them with full force after today's incident. He asks Tsukasa if he has a plan, and Tsukasa mentions that he does, and right at this moment, Bernard comes to meet them with his 50 men, carrying their most advanced weapons and ready to fight any invasion at any time. After this, Lord Gustav vomits blood in his castle and looks horrible as he cannot bear that his heavenly fire failed. He commands his men to mobilize the armies in the north and summon both lords in that area to launch their forces regardless of the ruthless winter. When this news reaches Tsukasa, they know they will be attacked with greater force, so he thinks that it's the right time to strike back and win. Sometime later, Lord Arclight and Bushwald travel amid the dangerous snowy mountains in the north and grow angry at Gustav's strategies. They don't understand why the Emperor trusts him so much, as he may be a great fighter, but his leadership is horrible. They have never seen the 7 Light Faith group, but they know their combat skills are unmatched, and now they are here with 3,000 troops, hoping it will be enough to fight against the opposing army. But fighting in the snow seems like a terrible idea, so Lord Bushwald suggests they take some rest at a nearby castle. Just as they are about to get closer to that castle, someone fires a gunshot and kills 2 of their men. They realize that the 7 Light Faith's army has already taken that checkpoint, so instead of fighting back, the lords order their armies to retreat. While retreating, Arclight suggests that they spread the rumor that he was killed in the opening attack. This will encourage the enemy to chase them in order to finish them off and lead them to make a mistake. Meanwhile, they will charge at them from the opposite side in the open ground using their cavalry. On the other hand, Lord Gustav gathers his army in the castle while the cavalry attacks Bernard's men. They are hard to kill with ordinary weapons, but Bernard remembers what Tsukasa discussed with him before coming to the battlefield. He knew they would send cavalry, so he handed him many grenades to use at such a time to crush the enemy forces, and Bushwald decides to retreat. Meanwhile, Gustav is furious that the 7 Light Faith is destroying his emperor's territory, so he wants to launch all his forces to eliminate every last bit of the rebellion. Suddenly, an Azure Brigade member appears at the top of a minaret and shoots a cannon in his direction. Jinin informs him that they are no longer with him and that they want their own freedom. The whole ground begins to wave Azure Brigade flags, and they wear armbands to signify they are no longer with Gustav. On the other hand, the AI avatar informs Ringo that both Lord Bushwald and Lord Arclight are hiding in their castles in their territories. They are expected to give up the fight soon. At the same time, Lord Gustav looks at the siege outside his castle, and the sound of bombardment increases his anxiety with each moment. In that situation, Ringo sends several drones to roam around the castle, announcing that they can surrender unconditionally now because the Seven Light Faith is too powerful for them, and it's wise for them to surrender. Not long after the announcement, the lords surrender before the army of the Seven Light Faith. Meanwhile, Jin and Shinobu reach Gustav after the revolutionary protest and tell him that his reign is over because he has lost the support of the public, as they are all against him. But the tyrant Gustav is too proud to admit it, and he surrounds himself with heaven fire. Suddenly, when Shinobu and Genie move forward to attack and end his life, he encircles himself with several fireballs. Now they get ready to attack Gustav using the bombs, and Shinobu throws one at him. The bomb hurts Gustav's eyes, and he screams in pain. After the first attack, which confuses Gustav, Shinobu quickly pierces her sword into his back. In her next move, she throws a spear toward the large light source on the roof, and it falls right on Gustav's head. As his blood spills on the floor, it forms a specific magical pattern, and then the blood lights up while they hear Gustav's voice say that these tricks can't kill him. Suddenly, the whole tower burns with Gustav in it, and Jin and Shinobu use parachutes to save themselves after jumping down from the tower. But they at least think that Gustav is dead, which is not true, because later Shinobu informs Tsukaka that Gustav's body was never found in the tower. However, the Azure Brigade is insisting on announcing his death, as it will greatly benefit their movement. Tsukasa shares with Shinobu that the lords have surrendered because they are surprised that the leaders of the Seven Light Faith had thought through and well planned the attack. They thought that even if they resisted, they could not fight back against their heavy-duty armors, and it seems that they truly accepted defeat and signed the papers of their allegiance. After taking over the palace, the girls and Akatsuki receive royal treatment. They enjoy royal baths and massages, which are very relaxing. On the other hand, Masato sips his tea in Tsukasa's company when the ladies and Akatsuki appear in very fine clothes. Akatsuki looks like a blonde girl with a slim figure, and they laugh at him, but realize they have to leave him in Ishigo's company for fear of the enemy's attack. They know that anything can happen here, as they have just taken over enemy territory. They sit around the dining table, and Tsukasa shares that Lyrule has been training with a mage to learn magic. She is washing clothes and bandages as a training drill, and, according to her teacher Gale, she is quite impressive. Tsukasa reveals that he now trusts Lyrule completely, as she has been very sincere from the beginning, but Masato expresses his doubts about the Azure Brigade, saying that they are just avoiding conflict, but are not a good group, and Tsukasa also thinks that they can't be trusted. Tsukasa shares that the leader of the Azure Brigade has been showing strange behavior. Everyone is startled, as the leader seems like a generous person, but Tsukasa explains that he is not what he appears to be. When Gustav disappeared after the fight, he asked the leader for the golden giant statue to improve the occupied lands. However, the leader, Conrad, denied ever having seen any such statue. Tsukasa is sure that Conrad's body language did not match his eyes, and at that time, he was definitely hiding something. His friends are surprised why Tsukasa offered to pay money from his own pocket for land development in this case. And Tsukasa explains that he cannot accuse Conrad yet, as his party currently has the favor of the public. He will not bring the truth about Conrad to light quickly before the people. Instead, he plans to change public opinion initially and then bring corruption charges. He knows that they can recover the money Conrad would steal through corruption, but they have to win the public's trust first. Moreover, he knows that greedy Gustav will return to the land to get his golden statue, so they will find out where it is. Before Tsukasa starts allocating what they have to do next during the whole week, Kane raises her hand and advises Tsukasa and Ringo to get some rest before starting anything new, as they haven't rested well in a long time. If they do not take a break, they will definitely fall ill for twice the amount of time they would have rested now, so they must act on the doctor's advice. Tsukasa thanks Kane and finds no reason to disagree with her. Afterwards, Tsukasa asks Ringo at the end of the meeting that since they are free, they should visit the whole city together. Ringo can hardly believe her ears but agrees to the offer. The next morning, Ringo's AI avatar wakes her up and is excited that Ringo is going on her first date with her love. She shyly reasons that it's a date, but it's not that kind of date. Later, she goes to meet Ichigo and asks her what she should do since she likes Tsukasa. Ichigo shares that, in their own world, she was famous as a good kisser and was always successful with her lovers. She gives some useful tactics, and afterwards, Ringo goes to Kane next. Kane cleans her teeth before suggesting what Ringo should do to win a boy's heart. Embarrassed by her suggestion, Ringo finally reaches Shinobu, who tells her to arrive first at the date location and wait for the boy to come. Ringo does the same and waits for Tsukasa. He arrives and sees Ringo blushing strangely, and after asking if she is feeling well, he turns around as there are people identifying the angels of the Seven Light Faith roaming around the streets. Since they are in their official outfits, Tsukasa thinks to change his outfit in order to blend in. When Tsukasa comes out after wearing the newly bought clothes, Ringo is stunned to see him as he looks so handsome. While they walk on the street together, people are surprised to see Ringo as she is so pretty. Suddenly, she remembers the next piece of advice she received from Shinobu, which was to hold the boy's hand while walking together on the street and make it look casual. She decides to do this by slipping and falling right into the Tsukasa's arms, but she still can't hold his hands. Afterwards, they enter a food shop to sit and eat something. Now, Ringo remembers Shinobu's advice that she has to feel her lips on Tsukasa's cup by switching his mug with hers. She does this and faints after feeling an intense rush of emotions, and Tsukasa catches her as she falls backward from her chair. They then show a flashback of Ringo's birth to her mother, who was a scientist, and the birth of baby Ringo was a great achievement because they knew she would be a prodigy. Her mom saw her solving very difficult problems even as a child, and as Ringo grew up, she achieved many awards, and her mother supported her in all of it. However, her mother's attitude suddenly changed, and she started talking less and less and became increasingly jealous with Ringo. One day, she told Ringo that she regretted giving birth to a child who was a monster. Her mother then left the house, and Ringo forever. After that, Ringo began living alone and felt very sad. During that time, a classmate named Tsukasa greeted her and asked her to repair his precious watch. She repaired it in no time, wondering why he was doing so. The boy then kept giving her things to repair first. It was an iPod, then a laptop, and each time, Ringo repaired them. This repairing brought her out of her solitude and depression. And finally, she decided she would do what she wanted and handed Tsukasa the last item, a camera, telling him that she wouldn't repair it because she was going to follow her own path from now on. On her way back home that day, she saw Tsukasa returning the camera to a repair shop. In fact, she learned that Tsukasa had been making all these efforts to cheer her up and help her start living her life her way. The electronics shop owner admitted that anyone who could repair electronics like Ringo was a genius. In the present day, Ringo opens her eyes after fainting for a while and feels embarrassed to find herself in Tsukasa's lap. We find out that she had been asleep for almost half a day and remembers the dream she just had. Although her past was harsh, and she hopes that her mother will love her and be proud of her again by the end of the dream, she managed to overcome her hardships. She feels lucky to know what she wants and realizes that the person she loves is sitting right beside her. The two of them then take a selfie to capture the moment, and she promises herself that she will not ruin the next date like this one. Suddenly, Tsukasa requests her to do something. It's something important to him, and after hearing his request, Ringo returns home. She is excited to work on what Tsukasa asked her to do, but she looks very serious. She doesn't tell her AI avatar anything about her first date with Tsukasa, even though it keeps asking. Afterwards, Ringo immediately begins working on the new project that Tsukasa has assigned her, while Tsukasa talks to Shinobu, who is spying on Lord Conrad and we find out that Conrad is secretly planning to shake hands with the Empire. Things are about to heat up in Gustav's region, and Tsukasa advises Shinobu to leave that district before the chaos begins. Later, we find out that Freyjagard is under an epidemic, and the number of patients suffering from septicemia is rising. Melinda is among the patients, and her mother pleads with them to save her life at all costs. Previously, Kane was treating patients with such grave illnesses using antibiotics, including penicillin, but she can no longer make it, as the Azure Brigade has restricted the supply of a few ingredients. Melinda's mother cries upon seeing her daughter's condition and pleads with Akatsuki to heal her, as she is her only daughter. Akatsuki feels ashamed because he knows he is only pretending to be a god while he is actually an ordinary man like everyone else. At the same time, Serentinas, along with a few others, enters the hospital waving his medicine before them. He humiliates them by saying that their god has no power to save them, while they, as members of the medical guild in Gustav's regime, can save the patients with their medicine. He waves the medicine right before their eyes and says that he will only give it to someone who renounces the Seven Light Faith and smears their reputation. This angers Akatsuki, and he tells Serentinas to take his medicine and leave, as they don't need it. He shouts that they have all the power to save Melinda and the rest of the patients, telling Kane to make medicine for each of them. Kane reveals that she knows they are short on penicillin, but believes that she can make the medicine using coal. Unbelievable as it seems, the whole gang laughs like children, watching Kane's intent to make medicine with coal. They are so hopeful that she will fail, and that they will ultimately be allowed to sell opium, which is currently banned for them by the Seven Light Faith. It is revealed that they actually treat pain using opium, which does not heal a dying patient. But as the members of the medical guild leave, Kane pushes an acupuncture point in Melinda's body to ease her pain for the moment. Then she goes to Akatsuki, who is afraid because he boasted in front of the medical guild members, while he has no idea how they are going to save all these sick people. Kane reassures Akatsuki that she is going to make a magic bullet using coal that will save all the patients. She invites Lyrule to the ground to induce a chemical reaction using the magic she has learned, and she states that she is going to separate coal from tar. Afterwards, she manages to create steam in the next reaction, and after mixing ammonia, they add sulfur to the cistern. After Lyrule conducts the final reaction, it converts the mixture into powder. Kane tastes it and confirms that this is what they actually need. We find out that it's called sulfonamide, and she will treat her patients with it. She immediately administers this drug to the patients, and after a few hours, Melinda finally opens her eyes. Kane feels relieved seeing them happy, and a spy watching Kane successfully treat the patient runs away. She sees someone fleeing while that spy informs Serentinas that Kane has prepared her medicine. Jealous, Serentinas tells his men to add poison to that medicine so that each patient who takes it to get healthy immediately dies. Hiding in the corner of the room, Kane hears what they said. With incredible speed, she throws needles towards him, and he falls down. She threatens him, saying she will change him forever with her power. Threatened by her abilities, Serentinas pleads for his life. In return, he promises he will never sell opium and will do what she says for the rest of his life. She then tells him that she does not believe in gods as a doctor. She believes in her own powers and can make this world a better place with healthy, fit individuals devoid of flaws. A few days later, the people noticed a visible change in Serentinas. Although they don't know what happened, they recognize that he has changed since the attack on the medical guild. On the other hand, the leader of the Azure Brigade stands before General Nero. He is not angry that the Azure Brigade raised a rebellion in Gustav's state. He knows that the Azure Brigade has outpowered Gustav, and that's a principle of survival of the fittest. Thus, he has every reason to forgive them. However, he cannot forgive the members of the Seven Light Faith, and the Emperor suspects that the Azure Brigade also wants to kill them, but they don't have enough resources or troops. Therefore, not only does he announce the provision of 10,000 troops to the Azure Brigade, but he also calls one of his servants. A man with an unusual face appears from behind a veil, and the Lage Soleil emerges from his hands. Meanwhile, Ringo has completed what Tsukasa requested. Tsukasa explains that no country can survive without weapons for their protection. Imagine if children formed a separate country. The adults living around them would scold them and destroy that country. Thus, forming a nation is easy, but maintaining its power is a more difficult task. On the other hand, Genie waits for Lord Conrad on the rooftop of the castle to discuss forming a nation with equality and peace. But instead, a group of armored knights appears and shoots an arrow at her, but she jumps away and survives the attack. The knight reveals that he killed her companion because he was too idealistic and that he will now kill her as well. The slain knight tries to assault Genie when suddenly Shinobu appears behind him. She states that she cannot leave her friend in a time of need, and together they attack the knight. Soon, they kill him, and his body rests in a pool of his own blood. Before leaving, Jean picks up the sword that belonged to her fallen friend, missing him deeply and to cheer her up. Shinobu suggests that she wants to show her something. She takes Gina to the basement, and after walking through a long corridor, they reach a room full of gold. These are the broken parts of the golden statue that Conrad stole after killing Gustav from the castle, claiming he had never seen it. Jean feels so disappointed, realizing that everything she idealized to achieve is not what Conrad is doing. He is looting the nation, while all she wanted was peace and justice. Shinobu encourages her to shake hands with the Seven Light Faith, as they want what Jean desires for the nation. At the same time, the man whom Lord Nero gave to Conrad as a fighter enters the basement with Conrad. Conrad shows the man the pile of gold that he has assembled by breaking the golden statue. The black-cloaked man gets angry, asking why Conrad did this to the statue of the emperor. Conrad explains that no merchant would buy the entire statue, so he broke it into pieces so they could convert it into gold coins easily. The angry man then removes his disguise and appears as Lord Gustav. He grabs Conrad angrily, furious about the destruction of His Majesty's statue. He kills him, and when Shinobu looks at his body, she sees a red stone shining in his chest, and his hands are also engulfed in flames. He senses someone is hearing him, and with the more powerful flames he has brought back from hell, he follows Shinobu and Jean. The flames start spreading inside the castle, burning every resident to ashes. Meanwhile, Jean and Shinobu manage to escape on horses. On the other hand, Gustav has gone mad in his loyalty to His Majesty, and he shouts that he will serve His Majesty in a better way this time. At the same time, Ringo has fired the missile that Tsukasa asked her to prepare on their date. The missile travels across several states and targets the castle, destroying it with a loud bang. Jean hears this and realizes that the Seven Light Faith members are capable of destroying a building from miles away. Meanwhile, the other members of the Seven Light Faith see the beacon of light. Masato shares with Rue that they are entering a new era, and they will no longer trade in gold coins, but will print their own money, leading to positive changes. Tsukasa then meets Ringo and shares an important point about power politics, explaining that no one will negotiate with you if you are not a powerful nation. To become strong, you need to acquire weapons, which will ultimately bring happiness. Ringo holds his hand with gratitude, appreciating his efforts to build a strong foundation for a modern nation in this world. Soon, he gathers everyone to address the public of his country. He shares that they have crushed all the rebellions and now have become the sovereign government of the 4 states. They have also negotiated with the Azure Brigade, and in Gustav's region, they have surrendered. Now he wants them to live peacefully in a country that ensures equal rights for all. He requests them to protect their freedom and rights, stating that they must take responsibility for their happiness. He announces the name change of their country, consisting of the 4 states, to a republic called the Elm Republic. Suddenly, a streak of fire emerges from the ground as Tsukasa speaks. He senses something is about to happen, so to ensure public safety, he evacuates the area. Afterwards, Gustav appears in the middle of the flames, declaring that Tsukasa is a traitor. Tsukasa is surprised, as they have tried to kill this man several times, and if he is still surviving, he is no longer human. Suddenly, Gustav's body begins changing into a horrific shape, and he repeats, like a robot, that anyone who commits treason against His Majesty will be killed. At that moment, Ichigo attacks using her sword, aiming for the red stone shining in Gustav's chest. Just as she strikes the stone, her sword breaks, leaving a shard inside it. Gustav appears injured, but runs to attack. At the same time, Tsukasa aims a gun at him and fires several bullets into his body. Gustav leaps towards him to attack, but just as he's about to jump at Tsukasa, a bullet hits his stone heart. He slowly begins to change into stone, and asks Tsukasa if he is the leader of the Seven Light Faith. He demotivates Tsukasa, saying that he will struggle to accomplish what he wants, and that in the end, no one deserves to rule the nation other than His Majesty. Ultimately, his whole body turns gray, and he falls to the ground as stone. After everything ends, Tsukasa wakes up one day, remembering Gustav's words before dying, that the Seven Light Faith would one day come and take rule from him. He steps out of his room, where everyone waits for him with newly made mayonnaise. We see that Winona, Lyrule, and Elk have also joined in. Rue eats a lot of mayonnaise while sitting at the table, and Tsukasa asks if he can become the governing body of their nation. Everyone agrees, and they start eating. Lyrule and Ringo sit beside him, and he doesn't understand why both are behaving differently, and he offers to share his ideas for the future of this new nation. That's all for today's recap. For more thrilling stories and updates, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications on our latest content.